Hey, Jonathon WolfeBarron. Today I got something really exciting to share with you. We're going through one of our rental properties that we have, and I'm going to show you just kind of the ins and outs of what we went through, the learning curves, just like we learn on every property, and kind of show the story behind it, how we acquired the property, how we're currently monetizing it, and what our future plans are. A quick little backstory. About a year ago, I was driving by this road and there was a lady who was working on this tree right here. She was looked like she was struggling. She was putting some Christmas lights up or some type of lighting. And so I just saw someone in need, so I stopped and said, hey, can you need a hand? And she said, yes, please, and hopped on the ladder, helped her out. Didn't think anything of it. And about a year later, we were trick-or-treating with my kids and we stopped at this house, and the lady that I had actually helped at the time remembered me, and she said, actually, we're gonna be fire selling this house and I'm not gonna be your neighbor anymore. And I said, well, what's going on? And she said her kids are gonna be putting her into a nursing home because she's in her 80s, and they're gonna be fire selling the house because the kids at the time were a little unknown what they're gonna do with mom's assets. And so I said, well, are you gonna be selling it? And she's like, yeah. And so she actually walked me through the house at that time, which hasn't been touched since 1994. So she was actually the original owner of this place, hasn't done anything to it since. And so I'll walk you through today about some of these renovations we did, and like I said, a lot of little learning curves too. One of the first things we noticed on the house, the curb appeal on this place was horrible. It had cedar shakes for a roof, which I wasn't even familiar with at the time, and they were all moldy. And so my first thought was, hey, can we do some mold mitigation here, put some of that white powder on it, dry out the mold, then power wash it off. Well, it was in the middle of winter time in Oregon, which it rains all the time. I had a company come up to power wash it. I'm a little scared of heights, so I didn't want to get on the roof, truthfully. And as soon as the guy started power washing it, the shakes were actually flying off the roof. And so we immediately had to stop and then had to go to immediate resolution, which is get a new roof on this place. And as you can see, we went with just normal shingles. We were gonna look at a metal roof. Our long-term strategy is always to hold on to our real estate, but a metal roof was like $70,000. And so we ended up going with a company that was local and ended up being about $20,000 all in. So far as landscaping goes, we didn't do too much. The driveway was really just, it had mold covered it, so we power washed it really well. Right now is what we're experiencing is we have a tenant coming in at the end of the month here, so we're gonna be doing some more landscaping work, but the previous owner had a bunch of roses, so we kept the roses. We're gonna trim these up. When everything starts to bloom, it just pops and looks awesome. There was like a water feature that was concrete, but it just hadn't been taken care of or maintained, so we ended up demolishing that. It was all cracked and wouldn't even hold water. But otherwise, we kept most of the landscaping the same, didn't have to do too much. And the tenants that have been in here actually loved it because there's flowers and everything, and it kind of lights up, especially when everything blooms. All right, now the fun part. Let's show you the inside of this place. Come on in. All right, so this is the first room in the house. For what we're doing in this house is we're actually doing midterm rentals. And so sometimes these families get displaced and it could be, 5 or 6 people in the family. And so right here, we actually have, this is a Murphy bed. It'll actually pull out into another bed. Otherwise, you can just turn this into an office. So it's a cool little casual spot for people, but it works as an additional bedroom if they need the space, depending on the needs of the renters in the house. So when you first walk in the house, you come across this beautiful staircase. When we got in here, this house looked totally different. These staircases were all scratched and guard. I mean, it looked like a dog had just really clawed at it. So we didn't know if we were gonna be replacing the whole staircase or not, which was one of the unknown costs. That actually translated down into the floor too. The floor was all scratched. You can tell where furniture had been moved over the years. And like I said, it hasn't been touched since 1994. So there's a lot of unknowns as we're doing this, and that kind of came into how we're trying to negotiate to buy the house. But ultimately, we ended up having to resurface all the floors, resurface the whole staircase. It actually came out way better than we thought it was going to come out, because otherwise we were thinking about maybe putting vinyl flooring over the top of it, which I didn't want to do because it has such beautiful hardwood floors. And like you said, they came out beautiful. When you come into this room, this is more of the family style room. And we were trying to figure out ways to lay it out. They actually had multiple chandeliers all throughout the house, but we ended up taking all the old chandeliers down, replace them with these. Shout out to my wife, who's the designer in this. But turned into a nice little family spot. And then ultimately the view in this house is what really shows with everything. The view is just absolutely phenomenal. So having the couches laid out to you're still seeing the view, have a TV, surround lighting. This place is just makes it feel more homey. All right, welcome to the kitchen. So we spent a lot of time in this kitchen. When we first got here, this kitchen was all wood with white appliances. So very 90s themed wood appliances with gold fixtures, so the handles and everything. We went with more of a modern theme, so that black and white combined with stainless to give it more of like kind of a luxury appeal. There was a white just microwave here. We replaced it with a conventional microwave just to, again, kind of up that luxury a little bit. We actually kept the old cabinetry. So all this cabinetry is the original cabinetry. It's all hardwood, it's nice, it was well built. It just was outdated. And so we gave it a professional touch up, painted everything, and it definitely, with the new handles, gives it a whole new pop and a whole new look. Same thing, dishwasher. Dishwasher had wooden panels on it. It actually looked like it had never been used, which is kind of ironic, but either way, we got that out, replaced this. Actually found some good deals for all these appliances. It was like less than like $2,000. The kitchen countertop, it had like a plastic type countertop, looked really, really bizarre. So we went through and found a local contractor. He had a slate. She kind of got swindled a little bit because these slates aren't from the same slab, but I didn't know at the time, and they match up pretty well. One of the downsides of being colorblind. Another learning lesson on this was the original stovetop was a glass stovetop, and we have gas hookup here, so we wanted to replace this with the gas top, and I think it gives it more of a luxury appeal. I think there's better cooking on a gas top to begin with. But what we didn't realize is when we cut this slab, we designed it for the old style, which the old style was definitely an off measurement that we didn't really realize at the time. And so we had to find one that fit this, which actually took like quite a few months to find one that would actually fit the dimensions that we needed. In hindsight, a little lesson learned is get your appliances before you have your slabs cut, and it's gonna save you a ton of time, because the last thing I wanna do is to be cutting into this. They had an old school sink with a rise up here, replaced that, put this fixture in, added a garbage disposal, a little extra amenities. I think goes a long way. For this rental, we always wanna keep our real estate long-term. And so for this rental, we were thinking about doing an Airbnb option, but really we kind of pivoted into a midterm rental, and I'll talk more about that later. But for midterm rentals is you need to have your house fully furnished. Includes all your silverware, dishes, everything. So this house is fully furnished, plates, cups, silverware. I really like the glass on the cabinetry. And then we have all the pots and pans, everything someone needs. So if it's a traveling nurse or someone that's been, unfortunately has a tragedy, like and needs an insurance to rehome them for the time being, this is something that they can come into, feel like home, and they have every amenity and every appliance that they need. My good friend actually was moving, and he had this marble high-rise table, and so he gave me a killer deal on it. So thank you, Lou, for that. And this is just awesome to be able to sit here, especially as we did a lot of the work to this house, the things that we needed permits for and everything, we were obviously contracted out. But just to sit here in the mornings and kind of write out what we're gonna do and look at this view. A lot of times me and my neighbor were working on it, and it was just awesome. It was really relaxing, and it's hard to have a bad day when you got a view like that. When you come into this room, this is more like a additional living space, but we actually didn't know this fireplace was here. There was an old mantle that was wooden. It went about this high, and it was fully covered. It was boxed in. And so I grabbed at it, and I was like, I think this thing could come off. And so I pulled it, and then lo and behold, there was a fireplace there. So as I dove into the fireplace a little bit, took off some of this external panel, there was a red tag on it, which said it was like 10 years old, but said it was out of commission. I called a company called All Fuel. Awesome company. I'm gonna do a couple shout outs to them. They were just absolutely phenomenal. Came out, and within a few $100 and a gasket, he was able to get this thing going, fully operational, run it multiple times. We get a good flame out of it and everything, and it really kind of heats this house up too nicely in here. I mean, we have obviously a furnace and everything, but there's some type of ambiance to be able to sit here, look at a view, have a fire going, reading a book, just really homey and comfortable. One of my favorite features on this house is actually the view, and this deck is phenomenal, so let's go check it out. So when we got this house, we couldn't even walk on this deck. This deck was, I had my daughter out here and she stepped on one of the boards and it actually was rotted and she almost fell through. Luckily I got dad reflexes and caught her. But that was one thing we had to do right away, was like, hey, was really concerned about the deck and how much work we had to do to this deck. Was a whole foundation shot, was a full replacement. We didn't know at the time. And so that kind of came into like our estimation for like what we're gonna need for repairs. But ultimately, I was actually at an auction and found a builder who had multiple different pallets of redwood. And so we ended up replacing this deck with redwood cedar, which will last forever. It's good, it's got a nice appeal to it. Currently, we got a tenant that's coming in at the end of the month, so we're actually gonna stain this again, and it just gives us this nice pop, especially as we do some more maintenance and clean up some of these pine cones. As far as the railing goes, this railing was a wooden railing, and like you could literally like move it and it would fall off. And so we didn't want anybody out here. And then we actually put this railing in. This railing ran about $14,000 if it was to be fully done. And if we did it ourselves, we could do it for about the material costs, which came around about $8,000. So all in, I think we had about 10 grand into this deck to really redo all the boards and add this beautiful feature as far as the railing goes, and definitely gives it a nice pop. One thing I would have did differently was went with a black wire. Black wires are usually about 30% more, but one thing on black is actually see-through, so your eyes will see past it. Versus when you have a silver, your eyes see the lines a little bit. But beautiful deck, tons of room here. You can do barbecues. It's probably the biggest deck in the neighborhood. This is a spot which we didn't really know what to do with. They had an old hot tub, which I got some pictures I'll share, but we ended up cutting the hot tub in half and it was moldy and rotten and there was slugs and you name it. It was absolutely gross. But a lot of the tenants that we have will end up having pets. It's one of I think Oregon in general is like one of the most pet-friendly states. And so one thing they had was a retention pond here, which we didn't really want to do anything with, which leads up to a creek over here. And so we actually just fenced this in so our tenants that have dogs and animals can put them on here. There's a little pad right here for them to go bathroom on. Otherwise, we still kept this cement slab there from the hot tub, and I think down the road we'll probably put a hot tub back in this place. All right, so this room right here is just the utility room. We'd put some new appliances in here, just to make sure people can wash their clothes and everything. It's actually got a lay down iron board, which is pretty cool. Again, this house had gold fixtures everywhere, so all the hinges. So we went through and replaced all the door hinges. We actually had to we did wash the doors, but we also had to repaint all the doors. The bathroom is the same way. It was all gold, just really had that 90s theme to it. So you can come in here, you see we went through, repainted the walls, everything. One of the things that had that popcorn walls, and so I had to go through and I spent like 2 days just in here, just peeling all that crap off the wall, which took forever. So last thing I want to do is spend 2 days in the bathroom, but I think I still have a little PSD from being in there, but turned out great, love it. All right, the man cave, just kidding, the garage. It's a 3-car garage, nice garage. We're gonna end up going through here and actually resurfacing the cement here to give it just a better appeal. One thing we didn't know when we bought the house was how's the furnace. And one little red flag I should have got was the previous owner had electric heaters throughout the house. And I know she was on a payment plan for electricity, and so I thought she was just using that up, but it turns out the furnace wasn't working too well. Again, shout out to All Fuel. They came in, hooked us up. Actually was a lot less than I thought it was gonna be. And the house didn't have AC, which I didn't realize either at the time. Another thing I should have looked at, but we were looking at the roof and all the other big expenditures. We ended up putting an AC unit over here too, as we're doing the furnace, which actually makes the job a lot easier. There is a little deck below this, and that was rotted out too. And so we had to replace that, but All Fuel was just phenomenal. It came in, service was quick. We got the permitting, everything. I think all in was like $11,000. So it was an additional cost that we didn't think we were gonna need, but I mean, taking care of all the appliances, new water heater, we're set. And so it's one of those things, kind of peace of mind, knowing that you're putting people in a house that you're not gonna have any issues with. All right, let's get back into the house and have some fun. All right, now let's head upstairs, show you the bedrooms. We had a lot of work we did up here. Really like this house. All the ceilings are really high ceilings, plus it's very open, so just makes it feel very inviting in this house. But come on in, this is one of the coolest rooms. This is the master. And like I said, we fully furnish our houses, especially if we're doing midterm rentals. And so brand new king bed, and this was like a $5,000 bed all in too, but something that when someone comes here and they're staying, I want to make them feel like they're home and comfortable, and sleep is one of the biggest things you need. All right, so this is a huge master bath. This had all tile floor and everything. The bathroom, we thought we were gonna, especially the shower here, we thought was like gonna be fine. And we ended up finding a loose tile, and I went to pull that tile off, and the next tile came off, and then lo and behold, we ended up having to replace the whole bathroom. But so we went with some big marble tiles here, just kind of gives that luxury feel, and really pops, and it turns out really nice. Did a rain shower head in here. And then as you come into this bathroom, it's, like I said, it's very nice, open. We got dual sinks, huge jacuzzi tub, and then this view is just absolutely phenomenal. Like, just to be in a bathroom here, I think it's probably the nicest view of a toilet you're gonna get. And we put all new appliances, changed some fixtures in here to give it more modernized, but we actually left the gold theme in this room. It's the only one we did in the whole house. All right, another cool feature in this house is there's a room up here that we actually didn't know what to do with. So this room also had carpet in it, and the carpet was just nasty. I don't know if it had animals in here or what, but there were some gross things on the floor that I would rather not describe. But ended up being really nice because we redid the floor. There was actually some broken windows here, so a tree had fallen at one point, and that came into like some of the unknowns in this house because there were some cracked drywall, so we didn't know if the foundation had been, compromised or not. But luckily, everything checked out great. We ended up replacing the windows when we were doing the roof. I think it's Westview Roofing. Maria and Alex, family couple, they actually prayed over the house before they even worked on it. Super awesome, and they did just a phenomenal job and really kept our costs low. But we did put a desk here just for, like I said, if there's young professionals or anything, little bookshelf over here. Nothing too special up here, but if someone wants to, if they're sleeping in the master and they come up here, they have a little desk and a little nook area. If they're nursing or need to take care of baby, this is a perfect spot for it. These windows actually will open up too. One behind you will open up as well. And yeah, it's a fun little space, and try to make it as creative as possible. But yeah, with a house that has 3 bedrooms, an office, and then this bonus room, gives you a lot of different opportunities to do things. You can make it into a gym. There's a lot of things, but we wanted to make sure it was applicable to the audience that was going to be using this. So here's one of the bedrooms in here. Again, when people are staying here, we want to make sure that they have everything they need. So we have a closet that's full of towels and extra blankets, everything they need. This is just a single bed. It's actually got a huge storage area in here, which I wish they did this in more houses, but whole little nook in here. Half the time my kids are here, they're playing in this room. But nice little, cozy little room for if someone's got another kid or something and they need a place to stay. When we get into this bedroom, it depends on the families that we have that stay with us, but sometimes they need extra beds. And so one of the things we did with this is just a twin bed, but one of the cool elements it's got another twin bed underneath it here. So this will actually pull out, stand up. And so if you have, brothers or 2 sisters or something, you can actually pull this thing out, and it still leaves a gap here for the dresser, and just kind of a nice little kid room. So when we were looking at purchasing this place, like I said, I had an insight. It was an off-market deal, so we had a little in there. I had known the lady just peripherally, but I think just having the goodwill of helping her that one day went a long way. But really, for an investment property, it wasn't actually penciling out, because we looked at the repair costs of the roof, the deck, some of the unknowns. There was some structural potential damage, and then the roof alone could have been, $50,000, $60,000 if we had leaks, which could open up a whole nother mess. And there was just a lot of other things. And so when we came down to our estimates, we were looking at potentially $150,000 to $200,000 to put it in this place. The comps in the area, most of these homes go for about $950,000 to $1.2 million. in the neighborhood. And this was definitely the most distressed property on the block for sure. So we're looking at on the high side about $200,000 investment to put in this on top of the purchase price. And then ultimately, we didn't know how like the market would take on this either. A mortgage is, you're looking about $3,500 plus with utilities, you're looking about $4,000 a month. And so it was definitely a gamble. And one of my thoughts in this place was it wasn't too far from my home. My mom's gonna be getting up in her years here. And so like, what does that look like when she gets older? And I think having your elderly parents closer to your kids and everything, actually, I like that generational type of environments where it's good for the family. So that was one of the options. And then just being able to bless people, I think, is really something me and my wife are keen on. And even the first people that ever rented this place was our friends who had found a big mold problem in their home and needed to get out right away because they were getting sick. And so it was a really cool opportunity for the first people to ever even stay in this home was our friends that needed a place to stay for a few months. But really, when we got down to the brass tacks of the numbers, we're looking at a $200,000 investment. You got $950 to $1.2 million comps. Roof was, I mean, the whole house looked really in distress. And so it's hard to look at this now and be like, wow, this is what we paid for it. But full transparency on the numbers, we got it for $525 all in. That's with closing costs and everything. And then we were looking at probably putting about 200 grand into it. So we're looking at about $775 when it was all said and done. And rental in this area is you get about $300 to $3,500 for rent. So we're looking at a $4,000 just hard cost of mortgage and utilities. This wasn't going to pencil out too well. And so to be able to get this, one of the conversations I had with my wife as we do our real estate together was we should probably have to do a lot of this work ourselves, and that would bring our costs down substantially because a lot of the cost was in the labor side of things. And I was lucky enough to have a neighbor that retired, I'm really good friends with, and he's in his 60s, but he can work all day long alongside me. And so we agreed after work every day, we'd come over here until we got this place finished. Closed in end of December, and we were able to get it all ready by end of May. So it took about 5 months there, fully working on it in just a few hours every day after work. So we were going to be upside down if we bought this place, but if we decided we'd do the work ourselves, we would get that cost down. So when it's all said and done, we ended up being about $75,000 in costs versus the $200,000 that we would have had to pay if we were to outsource this. And again, there was some things that needed permitting and needed professional help that we just weren't going to do ourselves. Fireplace, some of the deck stuff, hooking up the gas lines, furnace, and the roof. But other than that, everything else was done by us. Part of our real estate strategy is we do the BRRRR method. So it's buy, renovate, rent, and then refinance. We bought this at the end of 2013 or 2023. And so interest rates at the time were like 8%, which also was a really hindrance on like if we want to make this buying decision or not. Luckily, not too long after, we were able to refinance it and get it down to a 6.5, which then just helped with all the other costs. But just for the cost perspective of this, to get into it, just to go through the numbers, the roof was a little less than $20,000. A deck was $8,000. Appliances were $3,000. The furniture with all the furnishings inside, the dishes and everything, that came about $10,000. Resurfacing the floor came to $8,000. And that's resurfacing the whole floor downstairs and then putting the vinyl upstairs. And then the last was one of the unknowns we didn't know, which was the furnace and AC, which came in around $11,000. All in, we're looking at about $70,000. You add in the mortgage cost for those months that we didn't have a tenant, along with some appliances, you're looking closer to around that $80,000 mark. But we originally were looking at $150,000 to $200,000 of expenses and repairs going into this. So we were able to do it ourselves, was able to save our bottom line substantially. Personally, it took me away from my family a lot on the nights, which I didn't like. So the next one we'll definitely probably outsource and have it fully done by somebody else. But to continue to go through the numbers, we're able to rent this for about $6,500 a month, a little more. You have a little negotiating room if they don't quite fit the criteria you're looking for, which has been kind of a blessing. So $4,000 a month in hard costs, mortgage and utilities, $6,500 in total rent. Yield about $2,500 a month, which is about $30,000 a year, which ends up being pretty nice. We're about $600,000 all into this place right now, the way it sits. We thought we were going to be much higher than that, but we were able to do the repairs ourselves, which the current house now appraises for $975,000, which I actually think is going to go up higher than that too. There's some homes already in the 1.2s in this neighborhood, especially with this view, but that still yields us with about $375,000 in equity in this house. And again, an investment we didn't think was going to pencil out in the beginning, but because we were able to do a lot of the work ourselves and only outsource the things that needed to be permitted, really saved us a lot on the bottom line. And now we have a beautiful home that we can share with people and continue to bless them.